Something huge just happened in Memphis. The new era of the Boston Celtics didn't just begin, it exploded into existence. This wasn't a casual preseason debut, it was a declaration of intent. The kind of performance that makes fans whisper one dangerous thought: what if this team is even better than last year's champions? Boston walked into FedEx Forum and completely dismantled the Grizzlies by 121-103. But the score only tells half the story. The real shock came from the energy, the depth, and the way every new piece already looks like it belongs. Before we dive into the chaos, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the hype bell, because what's happening in Boston might just reshape the entire league this season. From the opening tip, it was clear something different was brewing. Derek White didn't just start the game, he set the tone. 10 assists, 16 points, and relentless defensive pressure. The kind that made Memphis guards look like they'd forgotten how to dribble. Then came Jaylen Brown. 21 points in 20 minutes. Efficient, cold, and laser-focused. He didn't need to prove anything, yet somehow he did. But the real curiosity lies in why this team looked so sharp so early. How does a roster filled with fresh faces already move like a well-oiled machine? Boston's starting lineup, Brown, White, Hauser, Boucher, and Tillman, wasn't just a test, it was a message. Without Tatum, Porzingis, or Holiday, this was a completely new rhythm. No one expected the chemistry to click this fast, but it did. And that's the first sign that Joe Mazzulla's offseason plans weren't random experiments, they were strategic precision moves. Memphis was missing Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., but that doesn't excuse what happened. Boston didn't just take advantage, they imposed dominance. Every possession felt like a chess move, every rotation screamed purpose. When Jordan Walsh and Luka Garza checked in, the intensity didn't drop, it surged. The Celtics bench looked like a secret weapon waiting to detonate. And then it happened, the play that made everyone watching sit up. Walsh threw down a one-handed dunk after reading a broken play. The bench erupted. Boston's rookies weren't here to survive, they were here to compete. A few minutes later, Josh Minott leaped from a baseline, catching a missed three for a thunderous putback. It wasn't just athleticism, it was confidence, the type of energy that turns preseason games into statements. By halftime, Boston led by 68-45. That's not a typo. The Celtics shot over 55% from the field, and the defense forced turnover after turnover. It felt less like a tune-up and more like an early warning to the rest of the league. But the question remains, what's fueling this? How could a team this young, with so many new rotations, already operate with surgical control? The answer might be in the subtle details. Watch how Derek White orchestrates a floor, directing movement, manipulating pace, creating windows where none existed. Or how Jaylen Brown's off-ball reads are sharper, his passes quicker, his decisions faster. It's not about who scores, it's about how they're scoring. Boston is evolving, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. Rookie Hugo Gonzalez had his own statement to make. A massive block early in the second quarter, followed by his first three-pointer, silenced any doubts about his readiness. Ron Harper Jr. and Max Shulga contributed late, but what stood out was the overall balance. 11 Celtics scored before the fourth quarter even began. The message: depth isn't a backup plan, it's the plan. And yet, there's a lingering question that fans can't shake off. If this is how good Boston looks without its full rotation, what happens when Tatum, Porzingis, and Holiday return? Could the Celtics actually be deeper than last season's championship team? As the game wound down, Gonzalez stole the ball midcourt and slammed it home, sealing Memphis' fate. It wasn't just a dunk, it was a symbol. This Celtics team isn't just maintaining momentum, it's creating a new identity built on intensity, depth, and adaptability. Coach Mazzulla smiled from the sideline, the quiet confidence of a man who knows his blueprint is working. Boston closed the night with precision, resting starters and letting the young core finish what the veterans began. The scoreboard read 121-103, but the real victory was the message: Boston isn't easing into the season. They're already accelerating toward October 22nd, when they open against Philadelphia. The league might still be asleep, thinking this was just a preseason game. But the signs are there for anyone paying attention. The Celtics are faster, deeper, and scarier than they were last year. The energy, the chemistry, the control, it's all clicking too soon to be coincidence. So the question isn't whether Boston can defend its crown. The real question is, who on earth is ready to stop them once they unleash their full power? Because if what we saw in Memphis is just the beginning, then the NBA might be witnessing the birth of something far bigger than another title run. It might be the rise of a dynasty that's only getting started. The fire has been lit in Boston. What happened in Memphis was more than a preseason win. It was the spark of something that feels unstoppable. The Boston Celtics didn't just start their 2025-26 campaign. They launched it with authority, sending a message across the league that the fire is still burning, and maybe burning even brighter. After crushing the Grizzlies by 121-103, the conversation is no longer about last season's championship. It's about what comes next. Because the way this team played revealed 6 powerful lessons, each one pointing to something much bigger than a single victory. But what exactly did Boston show the world on that October night, and why is the rest of the league suddenly nervous? 1. The starting lineup that nobody saw coming. Joe Mazzulla warned reporters not to overanalyze his preseason lineups, but then he did exactly what no one predicted. Jaylen Brown and Derek White were expected, but when Sam Hauser, Chris Boucher, and Xavier Tillman joined them, even insiders were caught off guard. Tillman's inclusion wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. The former Grizzly, who had dropped 5.5 kilograms and rebuilt his knee strength over the offseason, looked explosive, catching alley-oops and battling with Memphis's young core. But the question is, why did Mazzulla make this call? Was it sentiment, or was it a preview of a new defensive philosophy built on versatility and balance? The answer might be both, and that makes it even more fascinating. 2. The core still owns the court. There may be fresh faces everywhere, but the soul of this team remains unshaken. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Sam Hauser carry the opening storm, combining for the first 22 points of the game. Their chemistry was surgical, their confidence unmistakable. Brown, playing just 20 minutes, poured in 21 points without a sign of hesitation. His movement, his shot rhythm, his intensity, everything screamed that he's past recovery and back in control. White orchestrated like a maestro, racking up 10 assists, 16 points, 2 blocks, and a steal. The fact that this connection is thriving without Tatum or Porzingis on the floor is what makes this so intriguing. How will the dynamic shift once the full arsenal returns? That's the suspense every fan is holding on to. 3. The hidden gem. Hugo Gonzalez arrives early. What happened next caught everyone by surprise. Less than a minute after checking in, 19-year-old Hugo Gonzalez made his first NBA statement. A charge taken, a block, then another block, all within 2 possessions. And then the unexpected, a smooth transition sequence where he stole, ran, assisted, and scored. It was chaos, it was confidence, and it was pure Celtics basketball. But what nobody expected was how poised he looked among veterans. His timing, his defensive reads, and his shooting touch hinted at something rare. A rookie who already understands the pace of Boston's system. Gonzalez might not be in the regular rotation yet, but the way he played in Memphis forces a question that even the coaching staff can't ignore. How long can they keep him waiting? 4. The forgotten men from Minnesota shine. Luka Garza and Josh Minott came to Boston with little fanfare and no promises, but the way they performed against Memphis turned heads. Garza pulled down 10 rebounds, including 4 offensive boards, fighting for every inch of the paint. Minott, though struggling from deep, dominated the hustle areas, adding 8 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block in 26 minutes. He moved with purpose, anticipating plays before they unfolded. Mazzulla called a special instinct, and he's right. These are the kind of players who transform from preseason footnotes to postseason difference-makers. Could Boston have found 2 hidden weapons in players most teams overlooked? The way they played makes that question impossible to dismiss. 5. A new philosophy takes form. For years, Boston's critics argued the team was too slow, too reliant on isolation. That narrative just got burned to the ground. The Celtics now play with tempo, pressure, and aggression. 13 steals, 10 blocks, 34 points from turnovers. This wasn't a coincidence, it was design. Mazzulla has clearly emphasized a high-speed, high-pressure identity built on adaptability. Players like Minott and Gonzalez thrive in it. White and Brown orchestrate it. Even Boucher and Tillman add a new layer of mobility inside. But what makes it most intriguing is how it connects to Boston's long-term blueprint. If the Celtics can maintain this pace for even 30 of the 48 minutes, they become nearly impossible to contain. Still, one has to wonder, when the games start to count, will they double down on this riskier, faster system, or will they slow back into control? 6. A minor setback, a major reminder. Jordan Walsh began the game with energy, grabbing rebounds and slamming home a fast break dunk before a painful reality hit. A left adductor strain ended his night early. It was a frustrating pause for a player who spent the entire summer refining his shot and his understanding of Mazzulla's system. But here's the twist: even his short minutes showed growth. The awareness, the decision-making, the defensive positioning, all signs that his time might be coming soon. The injury may slow him temporarily, but the message is clear. Walsh still belongs in this story, and his chapter is far from over. The aftermath. By the time the buzzer sounded, the Celtics had revealed far more than a box score. They had unveiled a new identity. Faster, deeper, more unpredictable. A version of the team that plays with no complacency despite holding the crown. As they prepare to face the Toronto Raptors on Friday night, the feeling inside the locker room is electric. The veterans look focused, the rookies fearless, and the system already synchronized. So what does all this mean for the months ahead? Could Boston be entering an era where depth replaces stardom as the engine of success? Or is this early dominance a glimpse of something even more dangerous, a championship team that refuses to settle? The answers will come soon enough, but one thing is undeniable. If this was only game one of the preseason, then the league should be worried. Because the Celtics are not just defending their title, they're redefining what it means to be a champion in the first place. Hugo Gonzalez didn't just show up, he announced himself to Boston. When the Celtics faced the Grizzlies, fans who hadn't even memorized his jersey number yet found themselves staring at a 19-year-old who looked like he had been waiting his whole life for this exact stage. 2 blocks in his first 2 minutes. The kind of energy that changes the rhythm of a game, that forces everyone in the arena to pause and wonder if they're witnessing the start of something rare. Gonzalez didn't need to scream for attention, the court did that for him. He finished with 8 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 3 blocks, but those numbers don't tell the whole story. What stood out wasn't just production, it was presence. Every defensive rotation, every transition run, every confident shot carried a maturity that shouldn't belong to a teenager fresh from Real Madrid. When he spoke after the game, he sounded like someone who already understood Boston's basketball code. Defend first, impact always, and everything else follows. What makes this debut so intriguing isn't the stat line, it's what it suggests. The Celtics didn't draft Gonzalez 28th overall because of flash. They saw potential in the details that casual eyes often miss, the ability to anticipate, to recover, to make teammates better by simply being in the right place. It's the kind of foundation that championship teams quietly build upon long before the banners go up. And here's the question that should have every fan curious. What if this wasn't just a good night? What if Gonzalez becomes the missing link between Boston's veteran core and its future generation? His defensive instincts already look NBA ready, his confidence borders on fearless, and his connection with the tempo of this team feels almost natural. The Celtics coaching staff has sent rookies to Maine before, but if Gonzalez keeps this up, they might have to reconsider. Players who change the flow of games don't stay hidden for long. Imagine a lineup where Gonzalez runs beside Tatum and Brown, feeding off their gravity, turning defense into instant offense. The thought alone creates that spark of hope that Celtics fans live for. He's young, raw, and unpredictable, but that's exactly what makes him dangerous to opponents and to expectations. Boston may have quietly drafted him, but nothing about his game is quiet. Gonzalez is not just fitting into the Celtics system, he's threatening to expand it. If he keeps showing this level of energy and intelligence, the talk of sending him to the G League could vanish faster than one of his chase-down blocks. Celtics fans, this is the time to stay tuned, because what's unfolding might be one of those hidden stories that turn into legends. So if you felt that spark while watching his debut, don't ignore it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and click the hype alert, because Gonzalez might just be the next surprise chapter in Boston's rise to something unforgettable.